1610. Today's date is 6/9/21, and I'm going to start with washing my hands. So when washing your hands, you want to make sure that you're scrubbing for 10 to 15 seconds in between your fingers and all up in your arms. Make sure never to touch the knob for the water with your bare hands because you just touched it with dirty hands. Stop it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scale, well, I have all of my ingredients scaled for my bread. So I'm going to mix that. I also have another dough prepared to the side, which I had proofing overnight so that I can go from this dough right to my other one so that I can continuously go. So I have my mixer here. So the first things I'm going to add is my water, that, salt and sugar, and then my one egg that I have in the fridge still. So since I did just touch raw eggs, I am going to wash my hands again. Mixer with my dough hook. We're going to mix this on medium and low speed just to get everything mixed together and incorporated. This right here is flour that I can use to just dust the bench when I'm cutting up my dough. So if you want to come over just to put the camera inside the bowl. So as you can see, the egg has broken up and has mixed into the water. The fat is broken up so that it'll mix evenly into the dough. So now I'm going to stop this. And I'm going to add half of my flour. So that's about half. The other half I'm going to add my yeast to. We're going to put this back on the mixer. And we're just going to mix it on low till it's completely incorporated. We're going to notch it up a little more. So I'm going to stop it so that I can scrape down the sides so that I make sure that all the flour starts to get incorporated into the water. you're just making sure that first half of the flour is completely incorporated into the water and the eggs. Completely incorporated. The majority of the mixing is going to be done once you add the second half of the flour with the yeast. So we're just going to slowly add this in. And we're going to try and make sure not to drop any outside the bowl. Now we're going to start this off on low speed until all the flour is incorporated, and then we will knock it up to medium to continue mixing the dough. So while that's mixing, just to get the flour incorporated, I'm going to sanitize my bench. Dirty dishes will go into the glass bucket that I have underneath my bench. And you want to make sure that you're keeping your table as clean as possible. You do not want to work with food on a dirty table. So if you take a look inside the bowl again, you can see that all the flour has been brought into a ball. So now we're going to knock it up to about speed number 4, which is about halfway. We're just going to keep this letting it mix for about 7 minutes, and that's going to raise the temperature of the dough, plus it's going to make sure that everything's incorporated completely. When this is done mixing, it should be about 77 degrees here or there, and that just lets your dough proof more. So like the more you mix it, the more heat that's going to be entered into the dough, and that heat allows the yeast to proof. So we're going to keep letting this mix, and we will come back once it's done mixing. So my dough has been mixing for about 5 to 6 minutes. I'm going to check the temperature because it is hot in here already. So I'm just going to shut it off. As you can see, the dough has come together completely. It's nice and smooth, which is a good sign that the yeast has been incorporated into it. So I'm just going to stick my thermometer into it. So it's a little higher than I wanted. It's about 80 degrees. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this dough to the side. And I'm going to bring my other dough over. So this is the dough I prepared yesterday. It has been proofing in the fridge all night. I'm just going to punch it to relieve some of that air. So now that this dough is out, I'm going to spray this down to put my other dough back in it. We're just gonna put the dough in it like that, and we're gonna continue letting this dough proof. goes proofing. We're gonna stick our dishes into our puff bucket. And now I am going to scale out the different weights for my 3 breads. So the first weight for my braided loaf is 510 grams. It's a little high, so. So that's close enough to 510 grams. And I'm just gonna roll this into a ball for now. I'm gonna stick it to the side so that I can warm up and continue to proof. I need 2 that are 240. So here's 1. And here's number 2. And our pan de la paix is 450. And we just made it perfect. So now I'm gonna stick those back into that container that I just took, that I put the other bread into. And I'm gonna let these proof a little bit more and rise, and then I'll come back and roll them. So now my bread has warmed up and proofed a little bit, so I am going to start rolling it. So the first thing I'm going to do is my baguette. And what I'm doing here, I'm going to actually put a little bit of flour down because they are a little bit wet because of the heat. So I'm going to fold it in the sides like that and just fold down like that and fold over one more time like that. So that's like the start of my baguette. Now, roll from the center out. With a baguette, you want your edges, your ends I mean, not edges, ends to come to a point like that. So there is an air bubble right here, I can feel it, so I just want to move some dough back in there and just taper off my ends like that. So what I'm going to do is I have a pan right here with my linen. I'm going to put a little bit of flour in my sifter right here. And I'm just going to slightly sift. Slightly sift my entire cloth. So I'm going to stick my first baguette right here onto my cloth, and I'm going to pinch it like this and just bring it up like that. Now I'm going to roll my second one, folding it in, folding it just like that. So now I'm going to roll it out, and with your baguette, make sure your seam side is up, which I forgot to do. Mine was already face up, which is a good thing. The reason you want your face up is because when you flip it over, you'll be baking it on the seam side down. It's just like that. Those are my 2 baguettes. I'm just going to cover them up like that. So now I have my braided loaf right here, which the weight of my braided loaf is 510 510 divided by 3 is so 510 divided by 3 is 170. So I'm going to take my rope right here, and I'm just going to try to cut it as close to 170, not 150. 170. So that's a little high, so I'm just going to. And the reason I am scaling it is because you want it to be as close as possible so that your braids look symmetrical and perfect. So now they're all the same size. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll these out. And I'm just going to roll them all out to the same exact size. You do not want to add too much flour to them because you're going to want them ending up sticking to each other. So that's why I'm not adding any more flour to my bench. Alright, so I am going to stick them just like this and pinch the top together. Like that. So now it's a nice stub at the end. And you're just gonna weave it across. Braided loaves are one of my favorite to do. And you want a nice tight braid. And right at the end, you're just gonna stub it off like I did at this end. And I'm gonna pick it up. And I'm going to put it right there for now. Alright, so the last one I have to do is my pan de pepe. Not sure how to actually pronounce it, but that's as good as I can get. So how I like to do this one is I like to kind of just flatten it out. I'm going to fold it over once, then fold in my edges, and just a nice tight roll like that. And I'm just gonna roll it out to my desired length. And I'm gonna let this proof like this. And then right before I bake it, I will cut it. So we're just gonna stick this right here on the sheet pan and do the same thing like I did with that. And the reason you do this is so that you can just flip it right over onto this. So you'll stick it like that and you'll flip it over so that you keep your nice straight lines. So I'm just going to cover this all over, and I'm going to wait 40 minutes for these to proof, and I'll be back. Right. So now I'm going to, after my bread has proofed, I'm going to transfer it to a clean parchment paper. So one of the tricks I know is if you just pull it like that and flip it on, just like that. And now I'm going to just flip it back over. Perfect. So what that does is it just allows it to stay flat. So this is my pan de pepe. And you want to cut pretty far down to the bottom, but not all the way. And just push them to the sides. You're going to alternate the sides. One more. And just like that, you have your pan de pepe. So now I have my two baguettes, my two baguettes, there's the word I'm looking for. And I'm just gonna tilt it onto here. And just plop it down like that. And see, that technique really allows you to keep them with a good shape. And our last one, just like that. So now I'm going to take my bread scorer gonna do 5 dashes across it. Just like that. And now I'm gonna place these in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. My oven is set to 350, and I'm gonna let these bake, and I'll be back when they're done baking. So my bread is now done. As you can see, there's a nice golden color on them with a little bit of brown spots on them, which is a great sign. So I'm just gonna move my oven a little bit and stop it because it's going to be yet shutting off. So I'm gonna put these right here. I'm gonna let them cool for a minute and I will be back. Good. So now that my bread is cooled, I'm going to get a clean sheet pan. I have my clean sheet pan. I'm going to put fresh parchment paper on it. And now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show the crunch of it. So as you can see, it's breaking apart, which is a good crunch. I'll show you on both sides. See, that just tells you that there's a hard layer on it. So now I'm going to show the elasticity of it. So I'm just going to pull it, and as you can see, the bread's going with it, which shows good character. And then you have my braided loaf here. So I'm going to cut my braided loaf at a diagonal. Oop, not all the way through. Perfect. And see, you can see the elasticity. So there's the bottom of the braided loaf. Here's the top. Has great, a great look to it. I'm gonna cut this one right on my table here. We're just gonna cut it right in half. Ooh, don't wanna rip it. Well, so I did accidentally break it, which is okay, but you can see the inside of it now. As you can see, it's fully cooked through, and you can see how when it's cooked, you can see the center here and how it breaks off into different branches. And now the last one I'm going to cut is a baguette. And I'm also going to just cut this one straight through. And look at that beautiful interior. You can see the little air pockets in it. So I am contesting 1610, and this was my bread.